Hello, good evening, guys, and welcome to Real Reds Talk. As you can see, I'm joined by my co-host Shreyas today. How are you doing, Shreyas? Have you had a nice weekend?
Yeah, pretty eventful weekend. Quite happy. Uh, Heat's killing me, but it's somewhat something that you just have to get used to when you're in India. So things apart,
How
everything good.
how hot are we talking? Is it over there?
46.
46 degrees.
Yeah, yeah,
See, I'm honest, I swear to God, before we came live on this, I was sat there thinking I'm so warm. And I looked at my phone and it was like 17 degrees or something, or 16 to 17 degrees. So you saying that now, yeah, just kind of makes me feel a little bit silly. But yeah, it's nice to hear you're doing well anyway, regardless of the heat, I suppose.
yeah.
Also, happy birthday to one of our own, Sam, who turned 34 yesterday. Hope you had a great day, and I'm sure the viewers will be blessed with your presence on a show sometime this week.
No one can guess he's 34. He doesn't look 34
No,
at
it
all.
doesn't. It doesn't. I think that's the thing that runs through our family. To be honest, like our
Yeah,
whole family just got that kind of young gene. Don't know what it is, but
yeah,
I suppose we're blessed with that. Now, on today's show, guys, we're going to be taking a look at our potential centre-back options as we look ahead to the summer and begin the rebuild, basically. I've just seen a thing on Twitter saying Ten Hag's coming to Manchester tomorrow, apparently, to start
yeah,
work straight away. So that's very
yeah.
interesting. We're also going to be discussing the rumours surrounding Manchester United, that billionaire/Manchester United fan Sir Jim Radcliffe would like to buy Manchester United for around £4 billion, and what effect that could have on the club if that deal was to go through. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like the video if you're currently watching this. Obviously, we really appreciate the support you guys have shown since we've started the channel, and the numbers are growing. Everything's going really well, and it's positive. So thank you for that. Let's start off the show off with the centre-back options then, Shrey, as there's a variety of different players we're going to be taking a look at. So I've compiled a list, and I'm going to give you some of the players' names, some stats surrounding them, what type of centre-back they are, and get your opinion on them individually. How does that sound?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good stuff. Good
Yeah,
stuff. So we're going to start strong. We're going to start with I can't pronounce his name. Julian Timber, I'm guessing. I'm going to call it, you know what?
yeah,
I'm just going to stick with the Justin Timberlake because that's what I
yeah,
kept calling him.
yeah,
So we're going to start with Justin Timberlake. 20 years old, 5'10", right-footed centre-back who's a regular starter for Ajax in the heart of their defence. Is featured in, pretty much every single game, Champions League game throughout the group stage, that dominant group stage, I think we all remember, and is considered, one of the best in the league at the moment in the Eredivisie. Just some stats for you, Shreyas. Timber has won 73% of his defensive challenges this season, compared to 69 and 59% in the previous ones. His number of interceptions has risen dramatically from last season, 168 to 238. A great indicator, that he's becoming more proactive in his defensive abilities. Offensively, he's been successful in 75% of his dribbles so far this season, also aiding his team's cause with 17 key passes. He is one of the most exciting defensive prospects in the world at the moment, young prospects, should I say, and has the potential to be a top player. His strengths: awareness, tactical intelligence, on the ball composure, and leadership qualities. Weaknesses, as you know, nobody's perfect unless you're Maldini or
yeah.
someone like that, but weaknesses, he's got lack of speed, backtracking, sometimes slow to react in a 1v1, and defensive recklessness. So with that profile I've just give you, Shreyas, and taking the stats into consideration, how good do you think Timber will be?
To be really, really honest, I think that he's still fairly young, so he's got a massive option for growing out in those areas, like you mentioned right now, when it comes to 1v1s and his decision making at some instance in some conditions. But
Yeah.
I still believe that being fairly young, he's got a lot of years ahead of him. His prime as well is still yet to come, and at such a young age, he has a lot of potential and talent. He has the
Yeah.
vision as well. He can read the passes. He can help in those interlinks between the midfield, and also allows the team to actually play that high line as well. He's able to complement his centre back, because I think Timber is one of those players, you can mold him into any kind of centre back you want. If you want him to be a ball playing centre back, he can actually do that really, really well.
Yeah.
If you want him just to be, that solid person alongside someone else, he can play that role as well. So I think he is one of that person, one of those centre backs which you can just mold into a role which you want, whether it has to be like a stopper, whether it has to be someone who has to move forward and complement the high line. So I think that he's very young, very has loads of potential. Um, if we do go in for him, I think this is the perfect time to go in for him because we can still get him for a bargain price. If we go in after him at the right time. But if we wait out for it, his price is going to go higher and higher, and you're going to have competition with many bigger clubs which would have, I guess, right now much more to offer when we have to compare it to what United could offer.
Yeah.
So I think it could be a good option, but it definitely has to come in from Ten Hag as well, whether he wants someone like Timber coming in, because we all know that he's gonna have around 150 200 million to spend. So, and he's got a lot of positions to fill in. In the midfield, I think he's has to get like a couple of players there. In the attack as well, he needs to get a couple of options, or just one option at least, and then he has to look at the fullback situation as well, because pretty much Van der Saka is going to be going. So who would he want to go for, and which spot he actually finds as that position which needs to be filled ASAP is going to be something to look out for, which is going to be coming into play when we look at our center back options as well. Because if he feels that the defense is something that he wants to improve on the first, which it is the first thing in his mind, then we'll be looking at center backs first. If it is the midfield, then we could be looking at midfielders first. But I think a little does have to come out of Ten Hag, and I'm glad that he's going in, flying into Manchester tomorrow, so that even as fans and as Daniel as well, we'll be able to see through stuff much clearly as to what the situation is through his eyes, because that's what matters at the moment, how he sees the club, because he's going to be the one who's going to be making all the decisions.
Yeah, it's not messing about, is there? Like, I think all the Ajax coaches, the players, I think they've all gone to like the Bahamas or something. And he's like, nah, I'm going straight to Manchester to work. Yeah. He's going to suffer a serious case of burnout by like December. I think he probably needs to have a break, Ten Hag, before you go in. But fair play to him. He's coming in and laying down the law straight away, which is, refreshing to hear as a United fan. Just going back to Timber, I had a song playing from head. You know that song by Kesha? It's with Pitbull.
Which one?
Timber. I feel like that's going to be the chant. You must know it. That it's going down. I'm yelling. Timber. Yeah. Someone's gonna make. I'm gonna call it now. This is on a Real Reds exclusive. That is going to be his chant if he comes around the stadium. It's going to be something like he's talking him out. It's Justin Timber. Yeah, I'll go with that.
You never know. You might be the one starting it. It at Old Trafford.
This is it. Now this is video proof. If that chant goes around that stadium, we can always fall back to this video, Shreyas, and that'll be it.
Yeah, we have proof.
Exactly. Just sticking with Timber, do you think another big club could snatch him in the summer?
Looking at the situation right now as to what's come out from him as well, because he, amid interest from United and a few other clubs as well, he said that he enjoys playing at Ajax because he still gets Champions League football, and with Ajax he is able to get those chances wherein he can actually develop a lot more, because going into a big club, you're always going to have that competition for places. If he does leave, I don't really see him leaving for a mid-table club. I do see him going to like a top club, whether it has to be a Madrid or someone in the Premier League, whether it's Chelsea or City or United. So I think something that in his mind is still there is whether if he does leave, will he be the one starting in ahead of the centre backs that are already there at the club? And except that, Champions League is one of the things that he pretty much plays as the first condition in his list. And right now, United don't have that. So the only way I'm seeing us getting Timber would be through Ten Hag because of his connection with him. Because otherwise, United don't really check out any of the boxes. Because I mean, if it's about wages, then we still have an edge, but it is clearly not about that. So Champions League football is something that's going to be tricky for us to actually even in the coming years, it would be a little difficult for us to promise in that, because Ten Hag coming in still has a lot of work to do.
Also, just to put you in there as well, we don't just
Yeah,
want a player just come in for wages. Like, that's the last thing we want.
exactly,
'Cause we've seen
exactly.
that. I think
Yeah,
the likes of someone like Di Maria, that scene, like his heart wasn't set on Manchester United. He just kind of
no,
come as that sort of global star, and then we all know how that one played out. So we certainly don't want players just turning up for the money at this stage where United are
exactly,
currently at. That's the last thing we want. We don't want any mercenaries kind of thing.
exactly.
Who would you play alongside? Say, in a hypothetical world, we sign him in the summer. We've obviously got Maguire, Lindelof, Bailly, if he's still there. I doubt he will be, but we've got Erik Bailly there and Varane. Who would you play along? Is it a stupid question? I don't know. Would you? Because I think Lindelof, his abilities is similar, kind of similar to a centre back we're going to talk about in a minute. But we know he's got decent ball playing ability, and how Ten Hag likes to build up from the back. So maybe Lindelof could come into that system. I'm just trying to gauge, like, who would you play alongside him? Would it still be Varane? Because Varane's got his faults as well.
Because I think if it would have been someone else and not Timber, Lindelof could have made a perfect case. But like you mentioned, Timber is one of those players who actually struggles when it comes to backtracking, and pace being one of the factors that comes into play. And when you look at the options in that centre back position that we have at the club, and someone who we brought in with a lot of promise, and whenever he has been there, he's been one of our best centre backs this whole season. So I do see him pairing up with Varane, because he will need someone with pace alongside him, because we've seen Varane, when he's fit and he's at it, he's solid. Even if the team is not having a good performance, he's going to be giving a solid performance at the back, which gets unnoticed at times. Yes, his injury record is a bit, something that we definitely need to have a look at. But seeing this as a hypothetical scenario, I would actually go with Varane.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice to balance it out. Because I think, as I said before, with Timber's strengths and stuff, his awareness, tactical intelligence, on the ball composure, and leadership qualities. I think that blended with Varane's pace, and the ability to play that high line, I think that would help him out.
Exactly.
Whereas he kind of be hindered by Lindelof's pace a little bit. I seem to think there's a misconception surrounding Timber that he's a really, really quick centre back, and I think it's because of FIFA.
Exactly, yeah.
Because FIFA have given him like an 85 pace card or whatever. Like, he isn't that quick. He's not slow, but he's not.
Yeah, but he's not someone who's rapid on the ball and
Exactly.
Just going in and out. Because when you look at your centre backs, you definitely need to make a partnership where if someone has a weakness, the other centre back is able to eliminate that weakness by just being there. So I mean, if we do get him, we have to play someone like Varane, or if it has to be Lindelof, then we need to make a system wherein he gets constant support from a defensive midfielder, or just as fullback, because we'll have a problem with that long ball being played against us for the first time, I would say. But yeah, because Ten Hag likes to play that high line and overloads, and if we don't have that pacey centre back, or someone with that, if not pace, then just with that defensive awareness to be ready for that quick long ball coming in on the counter attack, he'll have a problem. So it has to be a smart decision, and I would say an economical decision as well, considering the budget he has.
And if you're Ajax now and you're in a meeting with United agents and stuff, and they're talking about price tags, I've seen a variety of price tags reported from anywhere from like 30 to 70 million, and I'm trying to gauge what's the realistic figure, would you say, for Timber, for a player like Timber?
I mean, being young but still being in the Dutch league for this time, this being his first big move, I would still say, even if you have to hike the price, don't go over 35 million, because we still have positions to fill, and I still think that we'll have massive cash going out for that midfielder position, because midfielders aren't going to be coming in cheap for us, because there aren't really players out of their contracts, and if they are, they're already snatched up.
Sorry to cut you in there, Shreyas. Just because you mentioned that, and I just remembered, I think Wolves have just missed out on Europa League as well, so Neves' price tag may be relatively cheap. Yeah, you just reminded me then. Sorry. Go
exactly. On. So I'll say if we even get Ruben Neves, I still see him coming in for like 30 or 35 or 40 million at least. the kind of player he is, and I don't think that Wolves would actually let him leave for that cheap. That would get him on like 20 or 25 million. So if we do get in like a couple of midfielders, I see around 90 or 95 million just being shelled out on that, and which pretty much leaves us with like 90 million or 90 million, I would say, because of the price tags that have been mentioned. So do we want to like blow out 60 or 65 million on the Timber,
That's the
who's
thing,
still
innit?
very, very exactly.
Yeah.
He's still fairly young. He hasn't really proven it on the big stage for like a massive club. No disrespect to Ajax, but when I mean massive club, the pressure that comes in the Premier League and the kind of competition that is still there, he still has to make his name for that. And so I don't really feel that it's justified to actually spend 60 to 65 million on that. I mean, if we are questioning ourselves over paying 70 million for Frankie de Jong, we definitely need to be questioning ourselves for paying
Absolutely.
65 million for Timber as well.
Yeah, that's a great point you make there. Completely agree with that. We're definitely going to have to be astute in the market anyway, and the way we're spending our money. We're going to have to, something that United have never been. They just throw money at things, as we've seen with Harry Maguire, our captain. So we're going to have to be astute. Talking about astute signings, the other centre-back that we wanted to take a look at, guys, was Pau Torres, 25 years old, 6'3", a left-footed centre-back for Villarreal, who, of course, made it to the semi-final of the Champions League this year, and put on some really good defensive displays throughout the competition. And Pau Torres was a big part of that. If you look at the games against Bayern Munich and Juventus individually, he was really, really good. And I've been watching him close. He didn't pull up trees against in the Liverpool games, but he didn't exactly do anything wrong. It was just was the way Villarreal set up. It's under Unai Emery. The very solid and structured, aren't they? So, but he is a key component in that team. He's one of the better players. And I think if you look through the individual players this season, he'd be one of the better ones, the top 3 or 4 that you'd list out of the Villarreal team. Sorry. A starter for the national team as well, Shreyas, and considered to have a bright future for Spain under Enrique. And again, I've got some stats for you. So standing at 6'3", Pau Torres can keep up with some of the fastest players in Europe with clocking speeds of 35 kilometers per hour. His ability on the ball is one of his best assets. And Ten Hag coming in, Shreyas, who we know likes to build up from the back, as we was discussing before. Pau Torres will be a viable option. He has a pass completion rate of 89%, which is pretty good. Sometimes this percentage can be a tricky one because, someone could just say, well, that could just be lateral passes, or that could just be, back passes. Similar to when we was looking at, remember the Atletico Madrid game? We was looking at all the defenders' passes because it was all in our own half, and Lindelof had like a 95% pass accuracy. So that can be another misconception there. But with Pau Torres, to kind of prove that, it's the 89% pass completion isn't just side-to-side passes or whatever. He makes 3.85 progressive passes per game and has 3.97 passes into their final third per game. Furthermore, Torres makes 4.87 progressive carries per game and has a progressive carrying distance of 202 meters per game. Both of these stats are some of the highest among centre-backs across Europe, just to give you guys a little bit of context there. His strengths, composure, ball playing ability, ground duels, and speed, which a lot of people don't know. I know I mentioned there 35 kilometers an hour. People seem, again, this is another thing. They seem to think Pau Torres is slow, but he's a really quick centre back, especially for his height. He's relatively quick and would suit the Premier League, in my opinion. The only thing is, his weaknesses. He's not great playing against physical strikers. So let's say someone like an Ivan Toney, who we've just seen beat Everton. Then someone like Antonio for West Ham, maybe. Pau Torres hasn't got the best aerial ability, and he hasn't got that aggression you need in certain situations. So again, I've just given you a profile there, Shreyas, of the player. I'm sure you've obviously watched quite a lot of him anyway, but just to give the viewers a bit of context as well. Do you think Pau Torres is underrated in European football?
I mean, I don't really think that he's underrated. I think that sometimes the opinion about certain La Liga players could be, undermining them a bit because of, the way that the Premier League has actually, evolved, I would say, in the last couple of years, because we've been dominating it in the European competitions as well. You look at the Europa League, even if you look at the Champions League as well, you're gonna be seeing a couple of English sides in there, which just shows that how good our sides have actually become, since that era of Madrid and Barcelona. But I still think that he's not really underrated, because a lot of clubs have actually been keeping an eye on him. United have been, Tottenham have been, Chelsea actually have been as well. Even Bayern were linked with him, I guess, after that Europa League final win that they had. But like you mentioned, a couple of his weakness, I think that when it comes to a Ten Hag system, a lot of those weaknesses won't be there, because he doesn't really play that system where those kind of things might appear in a game. And the kind of things that might appear in a game, he kind of checks out all those issues of the Ten Hag system. First of all, being that, long ball, because he has that pace in him. He has good ball playing ability. So, like, Ten Hag actually likes to play out, with his goalkeeper from the back. Pau Torres could actually be really, really helpful, because one thing that I've noticed this season as well is the Haya's distribution has not been well, but our centre backs actually haven't really helped him in distributing from the back either, because
you said that
whenever
for a while
he
now,
has,
haven't
yeah, and I've seen it an awful lot of times when he's tried to do that with Harry Maguire and Lindelof, even Maguire and Varane. If you're not going to be confident on the ball, and if you're going to, have that mistake in you where if you're going to get pressured while you're playing out from the back, you're going to lose the ball, then it's going to be difficult for the keeper to play out from the back, and he is, going to want it to just, eject it or just kick it out and, break the play. But with Pau Torres coming in, a lot of that, I would say a lot of those plays would actually work, because he is very, very good with the ball at his feet. And I think with both his, with his right as well as left foot, he actually plays quite well. So it's going to help out whenever, even if there's a game where you want to switch things up a bit, from the right to the left, Torres could work in that as well. So I think he's a good option. And I still think that if Timber's going to cost us like around 40 to 45 million, and Pau Torres is going to cost us around 50 million, I would say go for it, because this guy has proven himself in the big stages against teams like Bayern, against us as well. And, in the group stage against Atalanta, he has been there. He's been a prominent key figure for Villarreal, and he's been rock solid for them in European competitions. So I think if we get him under 55 million, it's going to be a bargain deal for us. And he is going to suit.
His release clause is like 55 in it. Something, I think that's what Villarreal. I don't know if it's. I'm going to have to look that up in depth. I think it's a release clause 55 million, but that's what's being quoted, 55 to 60 million euros, something along the lines of that, which
exactly
isn't too bad of a price with all things considered.
Yeah, because he's one of those players who's actually, he's pretty much in his prime now, if I would say, for his play, the way he plays as well. He's pretty much in his prime. So if we are going to be paying around 55 to 60 million for a player who's, in his prime, I would say it's still a bargain deal, considering the kind of prices that we've pretty much paid in the last few years, with Van Bissaka coming in for like 50 million, Maguire coming in for 80 million. So Pau Torres for a 55 million deal, I think it still looks quite reasonable to me. So if we do get him, I think kudos to Ten Hag, because he's going to fit his system perfectly. But it still comes down to how he assesses the team. That's the first thing that we'll have to see.
It's all about the blend as well. We keep going back to centre-back partnerships. Like, they have to complement each other going forward. Sometimes you can throw a great player in the mix with another player and it just doesn't work. And you have to have that, the right chemistry. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But why do you think a big club haven't snapped him up yet? What do you think the reason is for that?
I think when it comes to centre backs, especially from the Spanish league, people usually have had their eyes on Kunde, if I would say, because from Sevilla. Because whenever I've seen centre backs being linked to clubs from the Spanish side, a player that actually comes in every transfer window is Kunde. Whether it's Chelsea, whether it's any club, I would say big club, I would say they have been linked with him. And I think one of the reasons that he flies under the radar is that Villarreal aren't really doing that great in the league as well. They're
Yeah.
one of those clubs who have actually just done really, really good in the European competition, because last season as well, they weren't really that great in the league. The reason that they were in the Champions League this season is because they won the Europa League. So that could be one factor. But otherwise as well, I've seen clubs going in with serious offers for him, but he's rejected a few of them. Especially one from Tottenham, because last season it was again between us and Tottenham to get Pau Torres, but eventually we just went out of the race, and Tottenham he rejected because he said that Champions League football is something that he wants essentially. So
This seems to be like
another
a
reason,
rerecurring theme with players, isn't it? The
yeah.
Champions League, like such a
So
massive thing for players.
exactly. So I still think that if we do get someone like him, it would mean that he trusts the project, especially he trusts the manager as well. Because if you're stating it for like a couple of years now that you want Champions League football at the very least, if you want to come to a club, and still you're coming to a club at like Man United, which is, I would say, doing the worst in its history, especially in this era, in the Premier League era.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good investment, and he'll give us pretty some 5 to 6 pretty good years. And he's one of those players who's developed. He isn't a prospect where we would say he's going to come at the club, he's going to learn from this, he's going to do that, and in a couple of years he'll be this player. He is already a polished player. He's going to come in
Yeah.
and just he just has to adapt. So similar to Sancho as well. He's polished player. He just needs to adapt. So give him the time. Give him a few games, and he'll show what he's about.
Yeah. The more I look at him, Shreyas, the more I'm kind of like, at first when we got rumour with him last year, I think it was, or maybe even the year before that, and I was like,
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Seeing clips of him, I was like, I'm not mega impressed, but he seems to have gone up a little bit more now when I watch him, which obviously comes with experience as well. And I'm becoming more and more sort of leaning towards Pau Torres as a decent signing. I think that'd be a good
yeah,
signing as a centre back. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what price he goes for. I just think as well, he would suit like Pep's system. I think like Laporte did, who went over from the Spanish league as
yeah,
well, left-footed centre back, really good in possession. I think he would be similar. I think he'd suit Pep's system, and obviously Ten Hag's style is similar to Pep's style, so I think he'd be perfect for it. It's just the
yeah.
physicality that I question a little bit, especially when you're playing in the Premier League. Sorry, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we go in for him. The final centre back that I want to discuss, Shreyas, is Manuel Kanja. Loads of links, especially like link with Rangnick. It's a player that Rangnick likes. 26 years old, right-footed centre back, 6'2", plays for Borussia Dortmund, who finished second in the Bundesliga this year and went out in the group stages, I believe, against Sporting. I think they lost to Sporting Lisbon or drew with them, something along the lines of that. Plays good in a back three whenever I've watched him. I think Dortmund switched the system up under the new manager, and yeah, he seemed to take to that quite a lot on the left side of a back three, but is a little bit suspicious for me in a back four. Just keep an eye on that when you watch him play. He isn't the most popular choice for United. His price will be very low, but I believe there's a reason for that when you look at the player in depth. So let's take a look at some of his stats. Shreyas, 26 games, 3 clean sheets, 1.3 interceptions per game, 1.3 tackles per game. He's completed 82% of his long passes this season and has an 81% tackle percentage on average, which, to be fair, is the second highest in Europe's top 5 leagues. So a nice little feather to have in his cap there. Strengths include ground duels, 1v1, decision-making, defensive positioning, and aerial duels. Weaknesses, injury-prone, error-prone, a little bit similar to Varane in that sense. He had that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, reputation at Madrid, even though he was a world-class centre-back. Kanja, as I said before, suits the left side of a back three a lot more and isn't great in a back four, which obviously we'll be playing. That's the system we'll set up under Erik Ten Hag. So yeah, is it worth the risk for a low price, do you think?
I mean, it's an economical signing. So, but still, I would say that it comes down to Ten Hag. If he does believe in him, and he does believe that he's going to walk into this side and be a starting centre back for him, I would say trust the manager. He's going to be the one making the calls at the end of the day. So go with it. But if it is, one of those deals where you would say, it's like going to cost us around 50 to 20 million, would be good to have a centre back in the mix. I would say don't really go for it, because we've still got a tight budget when it comes to the, places that we've got to fill. And when you look at the kind of player he is, we still have players at the club, who can do those roles. When it comes to 1v1s, you've got Varane, who's very, very much capable of dealing with 1v1s. He's physical as well. Not that error prone, but yeah, he is injury prone. So,
Yeah.
But we've pretty much, got players who are injury prone at a club. When it comes to the centre back position, you've got Eric Bailly, Phil Jones, Rafael Varane. So those are three centre backs who are pretty surely injury prone.
Yeah.
You want to bring in a fourth player who's going to be injury prone, which is pretty much going to leave us with Varane and as a starting players. I would say Varane, Maguire, and Lindelof again, and Akanji into the mix. So two of them are going to be injury prone. So it's going to be Maguire and Lindelof again. Don't do the same mistake again. And if it's a squad depth signing, okay, you still need, those, we struggle with squad depth. We've not got centre backs who can actually come in except Lindelof and, play those games, the cups, and, that those midweek games wherein we, need that squad depth. So if it's that kind of a signing, I would still say go for it, because he is good, not that good, I would say, when it comes to the list of players that we've discussed already, Pau Torres and Timber.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble signing, but if he's ready to, go for it, he's with that attitude, just go for it. I trust this player and I see him to be with me in this squad for the time that I'm here, go for it.
There's a few red lights for me when I'm looking at the player, like the scout reports and stuff, and talking about his injuries and his errors and stuff. I'm just like, yeah, probably stay away from that.
Exactly.
If you're going to sell Eric Bailly for, if you get 15 million, let's say, because Wood would give him a new contract to try to retain his value. But I still think we'll probably only get about 10 million for Eric Bailly. Do you really want to go spend that money on another Eric Bailly for the next like 3-4 years or something? It's I don't think it's worth it, to be honest. We obviously had a similar thing in terms of value. We went and got Dan James, didn't we, for 15 million. And that's the only player we've been managed to sell. I don't know how we got 30 million for him. It's just, that's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But it's lucky we got that. I don't think you'll have the same thing if you get a Kanja and then you try to sell him on for more. Like with his injuries, it's only going to get worse naturally as you get older. So I'd stay away from it personally. He's done okay for Dortmund. As I said, he's looked okay in that back five now, back three, whatever you want to call it. But United need something more, don't they, Shreyas?
Yeah, exactly. And with the kind of players that are available, Goncalo Inacio being one of the players who's been, small links with him as well. So I would say the kind of list of players that we've got at the moment, I would still say Akanji would rank lowest in that, because you've got Timber, loads of potential, loads of room to grow as well. Someone that has worked pretty closely with Ten Hag, being one of the main men in those, in that Ajax lineup, filling in the space of someone like Dele, who's been, one of the best centre backs that Ajax have produced in recent years. So I rank him higher. And Pau Torres, proven himself on the big stages against, premium, I would say one of the best strikers right now in Robert Lewandowski as well. So he's held his own against big players, even in La Liga as well. Yeah, pretty much. So I really don't see Akanji getting in ahead of those guys. But so it would be a big gamble if we do get him. But if we do get him, and if it's a situation where Ten Hag trusts this guy, I would still say okay. I think Ten Hag might see something in him which we don't. But it's still going to be a big gamble for us, with and plus with the kind of competition we have at the moment, with even Tottenham, the kind of players that they are signing, Liverpool and City, the players that they brought in this summer, we're gonna have to stock up as well on these players. So I don't think Akanji cuts it for me.
Absolutely, and I actually think because Chelsea have got a lot of centre backs leaving, I think they've got Rudiger going, Christensen's going.
Christensen.
And Aspilicueta maybe going as well. I think there's discussions about
pretty much there. Even Alonso in their backline is pretty much leaving as well. So almost their entire backline is going to be gone.
Yeah, so I think the likes of Akanji's maybe, I know they've looked at him in the past, a cheap option, can play on the left side, is comfortable in that setup. I think he'd do better in a Tuchel system than he would in a Ten Hag system,
Yeah.
in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So I think Chelsea may go in for him. That'll be my shout heading into the summer. Now that's centre-backs done, Shreyas. Let's talk about the rumour that's been going around on social media. Just before we do that, sorry, let us know, guys, in the comments section what centre back you would sign for Manchester United. We're going to put a poll out on our Instagram, and basically take your pick and let us know who you would take for Manchester United this summer. Now the centre back's been spoken about, we'll speak about the rumour that's been going on all around social media. Has been absolutely blowing up that Sir Jim Radcliffe is thinking about putting a bid in to buy Manchester United. Now I must state that at this moment in time, it's just a rumour and people speculate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people speculating because I know it's a subject close to fans' hearts. When you're talking about buying the club, getting rid of the Glazers and stuff. As we know, it's like something the fans have wanted for a long, long time. Shreyas. Obviously it is a rumor, but as this is a fan channel, we have to discuss something like this when it's kind of blowing up. Obviously Shreyas, a lot of stuff coming out surrounding this Sir Jim Radcliffe, but I imagine a lot of fans will be wondering, who is this guy? What does he do? What does he own? How much money has he got? Why does he want to buy United? All that kind of stuff. So do you want to let the guys know who Sir Jim Radcliffe is?
Yeah. So Sir Jim Radcliffe is, he's a British billionaire who is a chemical engineer and a businessman. He currently owns, I think the name is Ineos Chemicals Group. So he's recently been linked with, as the potential new owner of Chelsea, but he had a bid rejected of around, I would say 4.25 billion. It was. So I think he is one of those guys who's, keeping a really keen eye on going in for a football club. And, with the current situation at United, the way that, things are, culminating for the Glazers, he is keeping an eye on it. And, things coming out that he's been a Manchester United fan since he was a kid. So there is a connection, but, still don't get your hopes up about the club being sold. It's still something, it's still in theory. Nothing is concrete yet. But yeah, there is a rumor going around that, he is interested in buying United. So plus he has got the money for it as well to, make the Glazers actually, think about it as a reasonable offer. Plus with, the price actually being out for Chelsea as well, pretty much, a price where you could say, a club can be sold at this price. So I would still say United, for actually Glazers to be looking to sell, he would still have to, shell out at least around 5 to 6 billion, because when you compare Chelsea and Manchester United, I would still say that, Manchester United is way, way ahead of them when it comes to
from
being,
from a business standpoint, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
Definitely. Because you've got this club is pretty much, it's a mega club, and I would say, because you go to almost anywhere, on the earth, people know this club, how this club exists, and big players as well. Because when you have to compare the trophy cabinet as well, we are far ahead of Chelsea, with a fan base, and the kind of devotion that you have for Manchester United all over the world. I would say it's insane. So when you have to compare both the clubs, I would still say that United would be much more expensive than Chelsea, considering the sanctions being put on them as well, and the situation they have been put in. So it's going to be a tough call, especially for someone like Glazers to actually sell it. But the situation that the Glazers are currently in, I would really not be surprised that if something like this actually happens.
Oh, so you're leaning more towards the side that you think it could happen if he was to put
Yeah, I think that if he does actually put in like a serious bid, it could happen, because the thing being, when you look the way United have actually been, especially the way the Glazers have been taking out revenue from the club, we're still a club in debt. So there is one thing about that.
Which is just
And
fucking
still,
madness, by the
yeah,
way. How we're even
exactly.
more debt than we was when they bought the club. I think they bought the club on like
Exactly.
£450 million debt, and we're in like
Yeah,
580
452.
now or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And, you would expect someone like, a club like Manchester United, which is really, really profitable, which is going to, help you generate those big bucks. So if you see it in that way, just to, clear that debt out, I would still say, with United, you just need like a couple of seasons or just 3 seasons to actually get that debt out of the way. If you're planning it smartly, because you've got a big fan base to actually, appeal to. Plus, with the kind of merchandise sales you get with, the big name signings as well, it's really, really insane. Social media actually coming in play as well, the sponsorship deals, and the the average audience at Old Trafford as well. A lot of things actually play a part in that. But
which is
right now,
£4 million per day, by the way.
exactly.
Which is why there was like massive talk saying we can't move if they was to knock the stadium down and rebuild it.
Yeah,
It'd be difficult to find somewhere in the northwest that could facilitate that revenue, match day revenue, should I say, which is, as I said, £3 to £4 million per game. So that just shows that's just match day alone. Like that's not even mentioning all the commercial assets, everything surrounding the
exactly.
club. That in terms of global importance, it's up there with Madrid, Barcelona. It's like one of the biggest
Yeah,
clubs in the world, and that's a fact.
yeah. And like you mentioned, the stadium as well. This is one of the biggest things, that is actually messing a lot with the
Yeah,
Glazers right now, because they still don't know how they're going to fix Old Trafford, because either they're going to revamp the whole stadium, or they're just gonna rebuild a small portion of it. But I still think that, you know the way that they've actually treated the stadium as well, the infrastructure at the club, I think
yeah,
it's a big mess, because
yeah.
it's not just the fans, even journalists and even cameramen out there, complaining, that there's water dripping from the roofs,
Mhm.
there's no connection. And one of the most shocking things being, when it comes to food and beverages out there as well, it's a
Yeah,
big
shutting off
mess.
at half time. They wouldn't even give it to the fans for free. And
Yeah,
it's mad, Shreyas, because when we first got Carrington, the training complex, that was
yeah,
like the most modern, up to date kind of. We was above anyone in that field, and now we've just kind of not had any sort of upgrade since then. And you look at what City are doing with theirs. Leicester's have got a really good training facilities over at their ground, and we're just miles behind in that. And it doesn't make sense for a club as massive as Manchester United to be so far behind
exactly.
in that department.
No, yeah. And when you compare it to the top six clubs, obviously I haven't really been to most of those stadiums, but
Yeah,
the research that I've done, you look at the stadium, you look at Chelsea Stadium, you look at Anfield, even look at Manchester City Stadium. The
yeah,
stadium is really, really great. Even Tottenham, the new stadium that they've actually built, I think it's one of the best stadiums out there. When you just have to look at a stadium with it at a stadium perspective, with the food and beverages, the
oh, it's
connection, the
beautiful.
way they,
Yeah,
yeah. And things actually coming out that UEFA is actually looking into it as a potential spot to host the Europa League final as well.
mm,
So I think when you look at it that way, I think Old Trafford is a really iconic ground when it comes to, if you have to even look at it over the whole Europe perspective, I think it's one of the most iconic grounds out there with Anfield.
yeah,
And, if bodies like UEFA, or even FIFA in general, I would say, if they aren't really looking at it, there must be a reason to host a big final in there,
yeah,
because people are mad about football there. They love football. There's a lot of history there, and with such a big club like Manchester United, you would actually expect the stadium to be at a level, with the kind of name Manchester United brings with it.
yeah,
So that is one of the reasons where I would say that the Glazers are facing a lot of problem. And another thing being that what I looked into was there has been stagnation with the kind of revenue that we've got in, if you have to compare it with the last few seasons, because it's not like the Glazers aren't really able to make money, because they're still making money. The case is they aren't making more money. It's the same level of money that's been coming in, and especially with COVID coming in, one of the things being that uh, Liverpool have been able to, even with COVID regulations being out there, Liverpool have been able to make a lot of revenue when it comes to just tickets or even sponsorship deals and stuff like that. One of the biggest reasons being they are successful. They've got the Prem title, they've got Champions League title in recent history as well. So when you look at sponsorship deals that way, they want their name to be attached, to a club, with trophies being out there with them. And United haven't had a trophy pretty much in the last 5 to 6 years. So one factor is there. One of the reasons why there hasn't been enough draft in the revenue that the Glazers have actually been making. And another reason going to be that the transfers that we make and the kind of wages that we pull out, we've got the biggest wage bill in the Premier League right now, and our position doesn't really complement it. Plus, the kind of signings we make, they're not profitable or economical signings in any way, because I would say almost 80% of our signings have been failure. When it you don't have to just look at all the signings that the Glazers have made, because managers have changed, the players have stayed, but there hasn't really been that spark from any of the big player signings that we've made. And
I find it, sorry to quick you in there, Shreyas.
Yeah.
I find it crazy, right? How we can sanction such ridiculous wages for players who don't deserve it at all,
yeah,
but then can't put money into the stadium, put money into new training grounds. They're taking dividends during a season where everything's just collapsing, which it's just disgusting, absolutely disgusting, and shows what kind of owners they are. As most United fans, I'm just fucking fed up with him. I'm just proper fed up with him. Like, they are toxic as fuck. They use this club as a cash cow. I can't, me personally, I know you're sitting on the other side of the fence there saying, like, there is reason for him to sell, and I agree with a lot of things you're saying. I don't even think in 20 years' time the Glazers are going to go. I don't think they need to sell. I think they could just sit on it, keep taking the dividends out, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. The most realistic option was during the height of the Super League, when sponsors were getting attacked, sponsors were getting really worried, they were starting to pull out of deals and stuff. That's what really scares them, and that's what, when it stops making sense for him financially, and you take that away from him, that's when I think they will start to consider it. But if United are constantly dipping between, I've said it before, if you could offer the Glazers now Champions League football for the next 10, 15 years, they'd take it in a heartbeat. Absolutely take it in a heart. Regardless if they win any trophies during that period, they would take it, because to them, it's all about business, and they would get that constant revenue every single year for the next 10, 15, which means shitloads of money in their pockets, and they don't have to worry about anything else that's going on, because everybody below them will deal with that. And that for me sums up the Glazers, in my opinion.
Exactly. But it's pretty much bang on, because Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, it's going to be profitable for them. And if they get Champions League football every single year, they don't really care, if we're getting trophies, because they're going to be getting the funds, they're going to be getting those deals as well because of the Champions League football. And another thing being that Old Trafford is, one of those stadiums where fans are going to be going in no matter what happens. They are very loyal to the club. And another thing coming in was they aren't really a big fan of season ticket holders being out there, because the Glazers are actually looking more into tourists coming in to watch the games, because then they can charge charge more fee from them for that one ticket, going up to around 15
like making it a franchise,
isn't
it, like what America do.
Exactly. So if there is a reduction in those season ticket holders, and they are going to be getting in more tourists to be watching the game, it's going to prove much more profitable for them, and that's something they're actually looking at, which is going to be pissing off a lot of people, because the way that the people there have been loyal to the club, the way that they've been performing this season, and the way things have been going on for the past few years, it's commendable that they're going in week in and week out to watch those games. And if the way that they treat these people, the Glazers, I think if you just look at as as a businessman, because they definitely look at it just like a business and not
Oh
as a
yeah.
football club, they're going to be looking at with pretty much making 30 pounds or 40 pounds more out of each ticket, and that's just one game. And if you're getting like 1,000 or 2,000 people in there, uh it's going to help them make a lot more revenue than they are making right now.
Yeah.
And you're never really going to have a problem wherein you would say that the Glazers would have a problem selling out tickets, because Manchester United, they have made it into a brand,
Yeah.
and people are going to be coming in to see that brand. Plus, with the kind of signings they make, which is pretty much evident, these signings are made to show the world that we've got these flashy players, come in and see them, and that's how they pretty much sell their merchandise and
That's how they buy
tickets.
him off.
Uh,
That's how they buy him off. That's why
exactly,
you got Sancho, Varane, and
exactly.
Ronaldo, and then
Yeah,
everything surrounding the Super League just kind of died down, didn't it?
yeah. And one of the reasons that they were, really, really interested in the Super League was these funds, because, like I mentioned, there wasn't really enough updraft in the revenue that they were making, and they saw the Super League as an opportunity to actually make loads of money through that project. But the way it died out, they actually played it quite smartly, not giving up the ownership, because everyone was pissed off at them. But what they did, they just went about it step by step. They went about replacing a few key figures in there, but
Mm.
not really replacing them, because the news came out that Ed Woodward is going to be going out. But we saw Ed Woodward being involved for a major part of this season as well, him being around at the club for a lot of time. Then Murto coming in as well. But we've seen Ed Woodward around there a lot. And
I'm sure
the
the bank that was funding this Super League, he used to work for or had some connections there or something along the
yeah,
lines of that.
yeah,
And then when it came
yeah,
out saying all this, he was like, "Oh well, it was Joel Glazer who was pushing it, or it was these guys." And it's just like, come on, we knew you was in on it. You was one of the main guys pushing it.
yeah.
I think it's very dangerous having all these American owners in football. I think Liverpool's owners are American as well, but the way they're kind of, I wouldn't say cheering the fans up, but making them forget about what they tried to do, is they're having success on the pitch. They've obviously just won the FA Cup.
Exactly.
They've won the League Cup. They're in the Champions League final, and they're, a point behind City or whatever if they beat Southampton. So they're doing it the right way and winning on the pitch. We're trying to cover it by just throwing cash at it, and
Exactly.
that can't be done.
Because when you look at the other clubs, being a Manchester City, being a Chelsea, or even being a Liverpool, you've got the performances on the pitch and the trophy cabinet in recent years to actually have something relevant to show to the fans that
Yeah.
we are actually doing something here, we're building something here. But when when you look at the Glazers, it's just all about those big money signings and big flashy players coming in. Because when was the last time we actually got in a player who actually just fit the system well, made a name for himself through performances being out here? Because even if we look at us, in recent history, Jadon Sancho cost us around 80 million when he came in, and he wasn't really a player. You would say he's a prospect, or he's a player who needed developing. He was a polished player. He just needed time to adapt. You look at Ronaldo, flashy player, big wages. Uh, we pretty much bought him, so that City won't really get him. So that was one of the prime reasons that we got him, which doesn't really, sell me on the idea that he was part of the plan all along. Edinson Kawani, once again, big name, flashy player, big wages on the end of his career, pretty much. We got him. Not really. So you look at these players, and you would say there isn't a player, I would say, who was brought in as a system player, even under Oli or even under Mourinho as well. There wasn't one player who I would say was a system player, someone that the manager actually wanted that badly, and
Mm.
actually was able to build him the way he wanted to as well. Because even though we've got some of those experiment signings, they have never worked out for us. And if you have to compare it to, like, even with the likes of Arsenal, the way that they've invested as well this summer, I think it's worked out pretty well for them, because no one was expecting Arsenal to actually be in the top four race this
Yeah.
season. And the way that they've brought about these performances and the way their players have gelled with each other, it's impeccable. Even Liverpool, Luis Diaz cost them around 45 million, I think. Jota, Mo
40
Salah,
million.
these, they have made these players world class. They weren't world class when they were brought in. One of the prime examples being Andrew Robertson as well. He came in from Hull City, wasn't, one of those players you would just, who would catch your eye in that 1 second. But the way that they have developed him, being one of the biggest names on their team sheet, one of the best left backs in the league, pretty consistent as well. I think that is one of the reasons why we differ from most of these clubs, and the way this pressure has been building on the Glazers as well, because they don't really have anything to show for their time at United, except for the fact that they've just generated revenue from
It seems
from us.
there
Yeah.
seems to be like a misconception with people outside of Manchester United or people who don't support Manchester United. The thing that always gets thrown back in our face is, oh well, they've spent money, so what are you complaining about?
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, they have spent money. They spent about £1 billion. That is true. That is the only thing that I will give him. However, they are letting the people who are currently, who was in charge, people like Ed Woodward, Matt Judge, all these other guys, they were continuously letting them make bad decisions because they benefited from the commercial success he was having under them and the deals he was getting, the sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. They let everything just sort of, go on, continue for like 10 years nearly 10 years post Fergie now without a Premier League. And they let these guys make decisions. They also made decisions to try going to the Super League, which we just spoken about then. And they take more dividends than any other Premier League club. And a lot of people from a business perspective can say, well, they make that money, so why can't they take it out? Take it out when you're winning. Take it out when you're winning Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, and you're at the the top of your game. No one's gonna bat an eyelid if you're doing it then. If you take it out when we're having our worst season since the Premier League began, read the room, mate. Like, it's just
Plus, not at least in the middle of a pandemic, when that the market is going to be crazy. Every club in the world is going to be suffering with financial problems. The way the pandemic hit every club in Europe, I think it wasn't really the greatest times to actually go in about it that way with dividends and funds. But it's it's just a way that they see this club. They just see it as they don't see it as a club, they see it as a brand. And what all they care about is that how they are going to be able to sell this brand to people year after year. So, even if the Glazers are here for the next 30 years, I would say that, it's never going to be a problem for us to actually get those big players. We are going to be getting big players. It's not a question about that. The question is that we're never going to be able to get the player that the manager actually wants.
Yeah.
We're not going to get a player who would come in at considerable wages, no, crazy contracts, and actually, just build a name for himself through our club, being that guy, because we've had that history of actually, players coming in, making a name for us, staying at the club, winning silverware,
young
potentially
players
going out
as
somewhere.
well, Shreyas.
Exactly.
Young players coming through the system who were pinnacle in us winning the treble.
Exactly.
So
and that's something that, our club has actually missed out on a lot. And I would say one of the things is with United is, you just have to look at the history. Even if you look at the situation that we are in right now, we still got the answers for it. It isn't a question where I would say, that the Glazers are actually struggling with a question or a dilemma as to what they are doing wrong, and they don't understand what they are doing wrong, because we as fans know what they are doing wrong. Even the locker room, the Manchester United locker room knows what they're doing wrong as well, because it's in a terrible state right now. So they're doing it season after season. It's hurting the club, and it's coming to a position where you would say, how much can the club endure? Because this is the worst performance in a season that we put out, and we're still sixth in the league. So it just still puts out that Manchester United, no matter how bad we are, we still are maintaining a standard of still being in that top 6 position. And being one of the worst sides in those in that top 8, I would say, because Brighton have been doing pretty well this season as well, Wolves and West Ham as well. And you still you've got still that 35th match day, you still got that believe that, United could still make top four. The kind of situation that we were in, the kind of performances we were putting, it just goes on to show that we still, we still have a name and we still got it in us to actually make top four at least, even though we are not playing good, because we set the standard that way. That's who we are. Even if we are not playing well, that's the staple for us. That's something which I would say it's still not gone. It's still there, but I don't really see it. I don't really see the club enduring it for the next, not even one season now, because the way that the other clubs are actually stocked up, Erling Haaland coming to City, you've got Liverpool making some really, really good deals as well. You've got Arsenal, who after a big blip have actually come back as well.
Yeah.
You've got
Arsenal,
Tottenham.
Of all teams, Arsenal are finishing above us.
Exactly. You've got Tottenham, Conte's Tottenham as well. So, when you look at that side as well, you would say, Liverpool or even Manchester City can stock up all they want. When you've got a manager like Conte, you expect him to, pull out something crazy out of his bag. And, because no one expected Tottenham to actually be in the case for top four as well, the way that they were playing. And, the dude has come in and he's hit the ground running with them. So you've got that. And, except that you've got the likes of West Ham, who have been brilliant, I would say, the way that they have played with their players and their deals as well, the kind of players they brought in, it's been really,
Great
really
game
superb.
Today, I don't know if you watched it, the City and West Ham game.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the madness! I actually chucked a tenner on City to draw at half time, which obviously came through. They got that penalty.
Yeah.
Mahrez, I was like, oh, that's my bet one. And then obviously Mahrez missed, and I was like, that's coming in. Coming in. What a really good game.
And except that, and you look at these teams and you see, you take a look at Wolves, you take a look at Brighton, Leicester City.
These
football. Are the clubs. Yeah, and they've got players as well. When you look at their team sheet, you can say that some of these players can actually walk into our side. When you look at Wolves or even Leicester City or even Brighton, and we aren't really a club that have to actually grind it out to actually be in a case for that top 10 finish, because these are that kind of clubs, barring Leicester, because they have had loads of success. But I would say yes, Wolves and Brighton are those kind of clubs that grind it out to be in that 8th or 7th position, and we aren't that club. So if we are battling it out with them this season, and if we do the same process all over again, it's gonna hurt us really badly, because these clubs will overtake us as well. Because you look at any of the top 6 sides right now, all of them clubs are ahead of us, no matter how much we negate the fact that Arsenal, the way they operate as well, they are ahead of us now, with their young players as well. Because you look at their side, their forwards, their backline, even the midfield, they've got some pretty good prospects and really young prospects as well. You've got the likes of Saka, you've got the likes of Smith Rowe in there as well. And I see them being a big part of their project in the coming years. You look at United, and barring Jadon Sancho, I don't really see someone who's going to be there for us for the next 5 years or 6 years.
Yeah, there's no one that's going to make an immediate impact.
Exactly.
We've always had a Langer come into the fold and the Ragnick, but he's still rough around the edges. He's having a dip in form at the moment. It's not. I think someone like a Saka or Smith Rowe are more polished in the league this season, that the output that they're putting in. I think before we know it, we could be in the bottom half of the table if you don't sort it out straight away. And you look at someone like Brighton, let's say, for example, our wage bill is worth more than Brighton's team, I believe. Like Brighton's full team's worth something like £50 million, I think. Our wage bill is probably somewhere around the same. We've got the highest wage bill in the league, and we're probably most likely going to finish either in the Conference League or Europa League. And with the players that we've got, it just goes to show that the Galactico big name signing thing doesn't work. You've seen it with PSG. But look at the players that PSG have got, and they struggle a lot of the time to get past the last round of 16 or the quarterfinals to the Champions League. They've got players like Mbappe, Messi, Neymar, Verratti, Kimpembe, Marquinhos, Donnarumma. All these massive players, and even got pipped to the league last year. by Lille.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
exactly.
it just goes to show you can't just throw money at things and accept, like, there has to be a strategy. You have to have things in place, a contingency plan in order to succeed in football. And clubs like Liverpool, Chelsea, City, even like Arsenal now, the way ahead of us in the way they're going and the way where they're going to end up in 10 years. You look at City putting, like you mentioned then, Haaland into their team. Look at how they play already, how much they're dominating. You put Haaland into that. That is scary, mate. That is scary.
And they just, paid like 60 million for him, just his release clause, 60 million. And, we're still looking at someone like Pau Torres or Timber who would cost us around that kind of money.
Exactly.
Do we see them being a player like Erling Haaland because they got him for like 60 million, And City, they've got the crazy squad that they've got at the moment as it is. You're going to be putting in Erling Haaland to that mix. You're going to be putting Julian Alvarez to that mix, who, that guy is actually really good as well. Yeah. So, you look at the City team and you would say, there could be a case that they're going to bottle it in the Champions League. But, when you look at that league, I think they've got it all figured out and all those boxes checked out as well, because even if Guardiola leaves, there is that foundation for the new manager coming in, even if he doesn't really, play that football, which is, catchy to the eye, but I would still see City just winning it for at least next 3 to 4 seasons because the players they've got in the squad depth as well,
they'll have they'll have the next plan now for the manager who's going to come in like 2 years' time if Pep decides to leave. Yeah. They'll already have someone in mind. They'll have all the transfer targets. They probably wouldn't have been speaking to him about 6 months ago, sorting these deals out. They would have been working on the Haaland deal for a long, long time. And they're just, it's a shame because they're our neighbours and they're obviously our rivals. But Liverpool and Man City right now are fucking light years ahead of us in terms of everything they're doing on and off the pitch. They are so far ahead of us. It's hard to comprehend how long it's going to take us to even get close to that level. We shouldn't even be discussing Liverpool and Man City right now when we're talking about, the future of United. We need to be getting back into top 4 on a regular basis. We need to start bringing in, the scouting department needs to get much, much better. I know the head of our global scouting department has just left. Well, two of the guys have just left. So that's being sorted out there. You've got the structure of the board that needs changing, which is also seems like changes are being made. I don't think that's any coincidence since Ragnick's come in. I don't think them changes would be I can't speak. I don't think them changes would be made if Ollie was still in charge of the club, basically. I think Ragnick's had a massive, massive part in that. And it seems like we're slowly turning the corner. I don't want to say it because I feel like it's United and you never know what can happen, but things seem to be being put in place now. It's about laying foundations and then you build up from there. Exactly. You've got Man City and Liverpool who are already the built mansion. We're just starting off now and putting the bricks in place and the concrete, and it's going to take time. And yeah, I think, coming full circle now, someone like that Jim Radcliffe, if he was to buy Manchester United, I know we went off slightly then, just talking about the Glazer stuff, but if he was to buy Manchester United with the potential they've got, they could be so big under a new owners. So big. And that's why fans are crying out for it, because we've been dampened by the Glazers being here in terms of how well we can do in world football. They are our biggest fall, like 100%. I've always said you can bring in whatever managers, players, whoever you want, as long as it's still that regime who rules at the top with Joel Glazer and all his brothers. Yeah, I don't see a lot of things happening or changing. I could be wrong on that, and I could look back on this in a few years' time, Shreyas, and be like, yeah, I was completely wrong. But that's just my personal opinion. Yeah, like I said, we've come full circle, Shreyas. So thank you for joining me on the show today, discussing. Felt like a therapy session again. Discussing.
And just to add one more thing to that, the last thing I would say would be, we still, we look at the Manchester United side right now, and even the kind of sides that we had in the past, and the kind of things that we have dealt with in our history. I would still say that if we put the money in the right place, we back the manager.
Yeah.
I don't really see a situation where, you have to say that, United is going to take around 4 to 5 years to actually make a case for winning the Premier League again. I don't see that. If we put in the money at the right place and at the right time as well, just give it a couple of years, I would say, if, you do it the right way, because we still got players. We've got a really good manager coming in, who pretty much complements the style that we want to play as well, attacking and catchy to the eye. So if we put in the money at the right place, give it one season, we'll see the difference, and give it another season, we'll be seeing silverware. But all of it just comes down to how we use the money.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. And we're going to see that in June. Obviously, Ten Hag's got his suitcase already. He's flying over to Manchester shortly. So I think we're going to start seeing some changes very soon. You'll probably see stuff coming out about players coming in, some more concrete news and stuff like that. Lots of stuff happening in summer, lots of players leaving, lots of players joining, new board members. Yeah, going to be a massive, massive summer for Manchester United. And there's only one place where you can catch your updates and clips and all that kind of stuff. And it's Real Reds Talk. So make sure to follow us on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, absolutely everywhere. If you want to go see a clip of me getting attacked by a wasp, then go check it out on TikTok or Instagram. That's on the latest show. Check that out if you haven't seen it. And yeah, subscribe to Real Reds Talk. Make sure you click that button. As I said at the start of the show, all the support you guys have been showing and the positive feedback you've been giving us we really appreciate it. So thank you for the support. Thank you for watching. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks for joining me, Shreyas. See you later, guys.
Yeah. It's a pleasure.